Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I'm here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about Nintendo and Palworld, and there's a bit of an update. This one lawyer says that they think it's an investment in unspoken fear that Nintendo is doing this. Or basically, they're pulling the trigger on the Palworld lawsuit, which is a patent lawsuit, not a copyright lawsuit. It's a patent lawsuit, but they said the problem with this is if Nintendo is victorious, then they're going to use the same techniques on anyone that they believe is their competitor. And they have patents on so many different game mechanics that they could go out to literally any competitor and be like, oh, hey, yeah, you've got a character hiding behind a tree and you see them via shadow. Well, we have a patent on that mechanic, which they actually do. I thought that was ridiculous.
See, that is ridiculous. I'm like, I thought you couldn't, there are certain things you can't claim ownership over, like certain,
in the US.
Oh.
So this is a Japanese. Now, I don't think any of this is going to hold up in court, but we're talking Nintendo is suing Pocket Pair, and they're both Japanese companies. Now, people have different takes on this. Some people are saying this is going to completely destroy Pocket Pair. I do not believe that. I think they're going to have to make changes to Palworld because what they're using to get them, because they couldn't find any copyright reason, right? What they're using to get them is they copyrighted as a part of another Pokemon game like 2 years ago or whatever, the mechanic of throwing a ball in the field and capturing a creature and then using it to fight another creature.
Well, I kind of get what they're saying on that one because that's a very Pokemon type situation.
Well,
the ball catching in the ball is a very Pokemon thing.
Scrolling from left to right and collecting a bunch of metal objects was very Mario, but Sonic also did it. Mm-hmm. And by that logic, they could just go around and start patenting stuff, and so they don't really look. I mean, there are a lot of people cheering for Palworld to get gone because they don't like the fact that it is obviously very close to Pokemon. Their Pokemon stands, whatever. But in this case, Nintendo looked like a bunch of douchebags. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I love Nintendo. I love Nintendo games, but they look like douchebags.
Yeah, and honestly, if they had made such a big deal about it, I think it would have come wet and everybody would have forgot about it. It wouldn't didn't have the staying power Pokemon had.
Well, I think what actually pushed them over was the fact that they're teaming up with Sony. And they're going to, like, if it were just...
because of the shows and stuff.
Yeah, they're going to do shows and plushies and merchandise and all that stuff. And it's like, they're probably thinking, like, shit, we gotta nip this in the bud, or they're going to compete head to head with our biggest competitor, and they're, so it's, I mean, I guess from a business perspective, but yeah, we'll talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. Yeah, woohoo if you do. Woohoo. So this is, let's see, this one's coming from Games Radar. Nintendo lawsuit could see Palworld reworked or removed and is an investment in unspoken fear. Lawyer says, don't cross us and we won't do it to you too. Damn. That's what they're doing. They're making an example out of
it sounds
Pocket
that way,
Pair.
yeah.
So this is Haley McLean, a lawyer at Voyer Law who specializes in video games. Right, says it's currently difficult to predict the effects of the suit since we don't even know the patents in question. Well, we believe it's 99% sure it is the ball catching the creatures in the ball. There's fair speculation. She sees room for outcomes including reworks to Palworld's mechanics. Just put them in a cube. Instead.
Yeah, but come on.
And the survival game being temporarily or permanently removed from stores. I do not think it's going to be permanently removed. I don't think this is going to destroy Palworld.
Over that.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think they'll find another way. Like I said, you could like suck them up in a vacuum cleaner. Oh, wait, no.
Oh, can't do that either.
Luigi's Mansion, right? Speaking with Games Radar, McLean unpacks Nintendo's terse statement revealing the lawsuit for Japan and a lot of other jurisdictions. Patent infringement is the unauthorized commercial workings of a third party of a claimed invention. The scope of whatever is protected under the patents determines the consideration for whether an act then constitutes infringement against said scope. There is both direct infringement and indirect infringement as well. Without getting overly complicated, Nintendo has to prove Pocket Pair's commercial actions infringed on their patents, and they did not give them consent to do so. Well, they've been gunning for Palworld since it came out. Mm-hmm. If it were not a big hit, if Palworld came and went, because there are so many other like Pokemon one-offs out there on Steam, knockoff games are clearly inspired by, and they don't bother with them. But this game sold millions and millions of copies.
So they did this before, apparently.
Yeah. Japan may have more case law compared to, say, the US that points toward the success of finding infringement. They may have even won previous infringement cases on the patents they're intending to leverage against Pocket Pair in Japanese courts. So they had a company, is it Colopol in 2017, which was based on 6 separate patents. We don't yet know if any of those same patents are involved in the Palworld suit, but the root precedent is there. So basically they won once and they're like, yeah, we can just keep doing this. This is how we're going to shut people down. I don't think anybody in this particular case, regardless of how you feel about Palworld, I don't think anybody should be rooting for Nintendo, because if they do it to them, they're just going to take out all the competition by being patent trolls or copyright trolls. You know what I'm saying? Like it's going to get ridiculous. They claim it infringes on multiple patents. The company has dozens and dozens of patents, not just on game mechanics, but game menu functionality, touchscreen functionality, controller functionality, console functionality.
Just because they have the patent on it doesn't mean that they came up with it first. They were the first to patent it. They could have taken, we could argue they could have taken stuff and gotten patented it, even though they didn't come up with it. But didn't they try to get them on copyright first? When that didn't work, now they're going after this. So this shows like a pattern of vendetta.
Yeah, they my understanding of the Pocket Pair Palworld situation was that Nintendo were going to pour through the code of the game and see if any of the assets were lifted. And they've had months, and I'm assuming at this point they haven't found anything, but they were trying to argue that they were, just lifting their models directly from Pokemon games and then just like throwing another coat of paint on them. And that's not something that I think is going to hold any water. But yeah, they're looking for a technicality. They said, here's the problem though. They said, if Nintendo can successfully argue Palworld's using its ideas, just because you patent it doesn't mean you're the one that come up with it. It just means that you got to the office first. Without consent, Pocket Pair could end up facing a range of changes, penalties, and other requirements. As a reminder, Nintendo's initial post reads, the lawsuit seeks an injunction against the defendants and compensation for damages, alleging the game Palworld was developed and sold by the defendant infringes multiple patents. They're going to use, if they win this, it's not going to be good for gaming in general. Because Nintendo, if they had their way, they'd be the only video game company out there. Geez, Nintendo, you have cartridges. You had cartridges in the NES. Did you ask Atari's permission for that?
I know, right? Because I was like, a lot of games use the same things. Just because they put a patent on it, a lot of people probably think they have to. Because it's such a standard thing that everybody uses. Why would you think you have to have a patent on it? And the next question will be, if they can, besides that, people they're not mad about, if they go after certain people they think are their competition, but the people who aren't their competition, they don't view as competition, have the same mechanics, why aren't they going after those people? You know what I mean? She
actually brings that up. This is interesting. The lawyer says that Palworld's global success, as well as its widely reported multi-platform and multimedia and merchandising efforts, would have chummed the waters and helped push Nintendo to take action. Again, I think what actually pushed them over was them announcing they were teaming up with Sony to make plushies and anime and all the stuff that Pokemon does. Like, we're going to make all kinds of merchandise, and they were going to form a new company with Sony, just like the Pokemon company.
And Pokemon is like the number one franchise in the world, isn't it?
Yeah. But if there's an alternative and Sony can use their multiple platforms, they can use Crunchyroll, they can, you know what I'm saying? And they can push an alternative. Yeah, it's going to eat into their market share, right? They said, famously litigious as it is, it wouldn't go after just anyone in court. She says, just look at Etsy. Thousands upon thousands of Pokemon keychains, t-shirts, and figures made without consent from Nintendo. But the legal cost to send a letter to all those persons likely wouldn't be worth it for them. So yeah, they said Nintendo is viewing enforcement of this as a sort of investment in imposing an unspoken fear of retribution in the marketplace for other companies, as in, look what we did to this guy. Don't cross us and we won't do it to you too. They're making an example out of it.
But again, like I'm saying is that there's people that are using it that, they only go after certain groups. Then they could argue, well, you're not going after everyone. Why are you going after these people? You have to have a vendetta, or why else would you do it? And beyond that, like you said, they use cartridges. Other people use it too. So there's just some things that become standardized in the industry. Even if they have a patent on it, that doesn't make sense because it's like everybody else used it and they used it without having to get the permission.
The D-pad, right? Nintendo actually invented the D-pad for their Game & Watch systems back in the day, and then they used that for the NES, and then everybody else started using D-pads.
Why aren't they going after all that?
Because they're selective. What they're going to say.
That's what I'm saying. They're selective because they're just personally pissed at Palworld.
They're pissed off. This game was, again, if this game was just a Steam thing and it came and went and it didn't, wasn't turning into a bigger deal. It was just like, oh yeah, they had their moment in the sun. They made a bunch of money in a month, but we're the freaking Pokemon company and we make money year after year and we have, for decades. I don't think it would have been a problem. But then as soon as Sony was like, hey, yeah, we're going to work with these guys and we're going to come out, because they got an axe to grind with Sony. Sony stuck it to them before.
Also, they mad because Palworld did it, some things, a lot cheaper than what they do. You know what I mean? And it's like people can't always afford their stuff and they're like owning the stuff so they can claim that they can charge whatever for it. And then people come along that charge less, and do well. Then they're like, oh, shit, Yeah. Yeah. And that's it. Nobody will release another monster catching, monster taming game again because they'll be like, hey, look what happened to Palworld. If I were a competitor, though, you could always do the opposite. Back Nintendo, if Nintendo is using things that they didn't develop, then it also opens up to everybody else and go after Nintendo if they wanted to.
Yeah.
I mean, Nintendo didn't develop this, and this. So, preemptively, I'm going to go after them before they go after me, Or they might be saving that up so if they come after you, you'd be like, well, you're using this, and this that you didn't develop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's where does this end? So I'm like, in this particular instance, love it or hate it. I don't care how you feel about Palworld. There are people that absolutely hate it and they think it's derivative.
I don't play it, so I don't know.
I thought it was fun.
I know you liked it.
It's basically just Ark Survival evolved with Pokemon type characters instead of dinosaurs. But that being said, like this does set a very dangerous precedent, and I think Nintendo's gotten a little too big for their britches because they used to be the plucky little underdogs that were getting sued all the time. And they've become the baddies, unfortunately. So it is what it is. Doesn't mean I don't like their games. I love their games, but this is very Disney-esque of them. We're gonna wrap this up.
Mm-hmm.
Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We'll talk later.
Bye.
Join the reef. Go to clownfish-.com. That's clownfish-.com. You will get exclusive access to podcasts and videos and comic strips and more, as well as merch discounts. Check it out. If you were a member, you could get this t-shirt, this dismal t-shirt on our website. You'd get a 10% discount on that. You can also join in the community on clownfish-.com. Thank you so much for the support.